Today we're going to ferment hummus, an already nutritious food that will be taken to the next level of good for you by those favorite microorganisms of ours known as probiotics. Hummus is made from garbanzo beans, also known as chickpeas. Did you know that fermentation also makes nutrients more bioavailable? Soaking, sprouting, and cooking beans can significantly reduce anti-nutrients, but so can fermenting. During the fermenting process, the probiotics unlock the anti-nutrients attached to the beneficial nutrients, setting the beneficial nutrients free to be absorbed and utilized by the body. Excited to give this recipe a try? And as an added bonus, after the recipe demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use it in what I call energy salad. Plus, I'll show you the energy sandwich version as well. Let's get started. No need to write all of this down. You'll find a link to the written recipe in the description. Here are the ingredients. Cooked garbanzo beans. You can cook your own on the stovetop or use canned. If you cook your own, you are welcome to soak or sprout the garbanzo beans beforehand if you wish, but it's not required. If you opt to use canned, the only 2 or 3 ingredients that should read on the label are garbanzo beans, water, and/or salt. Standard commercial garbanzo beans tend to have added ingredients such as agents, chemicals, and/or preservatives. Some of these agents can cause a fermentation to falter, so it's best to avoid any added ingredients beyond the beans, the salt, and the water just to be safe. Here's another important note about using canned foods. Nowadays, a plastic lining coats the inside of the can, and the lining may contain bisphenols to reduce corrosion. Bisphenols have the molecular characteristic of a type of chemical called this, which can disrupt this heart-protecting protein and also function as a synthetic estrogen. I'm also suspicious that this plastic lining also contains some other chemical-like substances as well, since I first took note of can linings when I noticed that I developed gut pains when eating food from plastic-lined cans, but I did not have pains with non-lined cans. My personal experience has been that organic canned foods tend not to have this plastic lining inside the can, but non-organic canned foods do. So if you opt to cook the beans yourself, this is obviously not a concern to watch out for. But if you do opt to use canned garbanzo beans, or any canned foods for that matter, I recommend using organic that has only the simple ingredients within it, no added chemicals or preservatives, and no plastic lining inside the can. Okay, moving on to the rest of the ingredients. Garlic, lemon juice. Fresh is of course best because the nutrients from fresh lemons are most prevalent since the juice hasn't been pasteurized or oxidized. But you can use bottled if that's your only option. It's hard to find store-bought lemon juice that doesn't have added chemical ingredients like this. But if you look in the organic section of the store, most likely you will be able to find a straight-up lemon juice. Toasted sesame oil. I have found the toasted version adds depth to the flavor of the hummus. Bean water. Save the water from either your cooked or your canned garbanzo beans. Some salt to taste. And lastly, we'll need a starter culture containing live cultures, aka probiotics. Cooked beans of any kind cannot wild ferment like fresh vegetables can, for instance like sauerkraut, because all naturally present bacteria are killed during the cooking process. Good bacteria are required for fermentation to take place, so we need to add them to the hummus as a starter culture. Let's cover the options. You can use the brine of an established and healthy vegetable fermentation, such as sauerkraut or white kimchi, because the brine contains live probiotic cultures. In my fridge, I have some fermented carrots brine and some white kimchi brine left over from the white kimchi I just finished eating. Option number 2 is you can use liquid whey. The whey is what sits atop of yogurt. Make sure the container says that it contains live cultures and lists them on the back. Option number 3, you can use non-flavored kombucha that is home brewed or store-bought. And just an FYI, you can ferment any hummus recipe. It doesn't have to be this one. So if you'd rather use another recipe than this one, no problem. And if you do use this recipe but want to make some adjustments, feel free. For example, perhaps you want to use tahini instead of sesame oil, or more garlic or less garlic. Make any changes to your taste preference. The important thing is the starter culture, because without that, there will be no fermentation. Except for the salt, add all the ingredients to a blender or food processor in no particular order. Mix it up until smooth. Transfer to a bowl. Now add the salt to your taste preference. I like using Celtic Sea Salt with this recipe, but you can use any salt you wish. Make sure you taste test your hummus so you know how to compare its taste before and after fermentation. Place plastic wrap over top and keep the bowl on the counter at room temperature for 48 hours. After 2 days, you should be able to taste the fermentation. It's going to have an extra zing to it. Yep, I can taste that fermentation zing. It's that same kind of zing that other fermented foods get as well. The beneficial bacteria release acids and enzymes during the fermentation process, which are responsible for that zing flavor. Transfer the fermented hummus to a jar and place in the refrigerator, where it will keep for about 2 weeks. This is considered a short-term fermentation because it ferments quickly, 2 days versus weeks, and it stores for a limited time in the refrigerator, weeks rather than months. So how do you eat it? Use it as a dip for your chips, your apple wedges, or veggie slices. Those are the classic uses, but here's how I like to eat mine. I call it energy salad, and I'll show you the sandwich version as well. Start with a handful of power greens or spring mix. 1 radish. I like to grate many of the ingredients because to me it's like pre-chewing. In our fast-paced culture, we don't chew our food very well. We tend to scarf it down and swallow things as chunks, which hinders good digestion. Even though I try to be mindful of my own chewing, I still don't do a good job, so I found grating my food gives me a head start with the mastication, and I've actually found it really helpful to my digestion. A piece of zucchini like this. Zucchini is a good source of lutein and zeaxanthin, as well as potassium. A similar sized piece of cucumber. Cucumber is cleansing to the kidneys. Celery. Celery is a good source of folate and vitamin K. Apple. Vitamin C, and if you keep the skin on, pectin. And by the way, feel free to sub things out you see here to fit your own palate or availability. But if you're new to a clean food eating lifestyle, this version of energy salad is a great place to start. A fresh herb. Today I'm using parsley, a great source of beta-carotene, vitamin C, folate, potassium, and there's even some iron in there. Fresh sprouts. These are mung bean sprouts I did myself in this handy sprouting container. These are the seeds that I use. Super easy and fast to sprout these. I'll place a link in the description if you're interested. Fresh mung bean sprouts have an array of B vitamins as well as magnesium and manganese. Dulse Flakes, the gem of this energy salad. I go light, but you can add as much as you want. Then we're going to take a couple of spoonfuls of hummus and thin it out to make the salad dressing. Now you can use a little bit of water to thin it out, or do what I'm doing, which is adding a little white kimchi brine. Extra flavor, extra probiotics. Voila, salad complete. Now I'm going to show you how this salad gets translated into a delicious sandwich. This is my homemade sourdough bread, which doesn't give bread bloat the way regular bread does because it's fermented. I'm going to use the fermented hummus as the sandwich spread, not thinned out. Adding some home-cooked chicken breast I made earlier. Now if you're a vegan, obviously omit that ingredient. I'm going to mix up the energy salad we just made and make that the main filler of the sandwich. is this not a gorgeous sandwich? And it's so good for you too. I ate this right after filming this video and what a treat. So good. I hope you enjoyed this fermented hummus video, and if you're inspired, try making some homemade sauerkraut and add that to the energy salad too. I've got lots more fermented food recipes to whet your appetite and get you on that fermenting train. You can check them out right here in this playlist. And remember, I have links to all the items mentioned in this video. You'll find the links in the description. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.